what a wonderful privilege it is to have with us as our special guest today, Ruthie Bolton. She's one of the most accomplished female athletes in the world. She's a two-time Olympic gold medalist, two-time WNBA All-Star. She's a member of the WNBA Hall of Fame. And off the court, well, she's a mom, she's an author, she's a recording artist, and she served in the military as a first lieutenant, and most importantly, she's a fully devoted follower of Jesus and an inspiration wherever she goes. What an honor it is to have mighty Ruthie Bolton with us here at Cathedral. Welcome, welcome, Ruthie.
Thank you for having me, man. It feels great. I love to come where you're having fun. It seems like you're having a lot of fun.
Oh, we do. We have fun here at Cathedral of Faith. There's joy in serving God.
That's right.
So,
yeah. Amen.
So, Ruthie, let's start off with your family.
Oh, wow.
I mean, you come from a large family. What was it like growing up in that family?
Oh, wow. Large family. 12 girls and 8 boys.
That qualifies as large.
20 of us. You know what? There was it was great, but the only thing bad about it was at times when there was only like maybe, 5 cookies left. And I said, Mom, I want a cookie. She said, is there enough for everybody? I said, no. She said, well, you can't have it. I'm like, what about a popsicle? So if it wasn't enough, you couldn't get it. I said, well, somebody got to eat it. So it's like, oh man, well, I had to be from a big family, but it's just a lot. It was a lot of fun. But at our dinner table, there was only 8 chairs, so that was sort of, that's a saying, move, you lose at the Mississippi rule. So you have to get there, and you could miss a couple of shifts of eating if you don't, get in when they hear the first bell.
oh, wow! You needed an 8 people around the dinner table, and then. Shopping. I don't know if you had Costco back then, but you'd probably need to go to a Costco.
Well, we lived on a farm, and we had chickens, cows. So we planted our vegetables, corn, peas. I love field peas, okra, which I don't really like okra too much, but all the vegetables. Then they killed the cow and the hog for the food, for the meat.
Wow.
So, and the chickens, we had the eggs. So we just had to go to the store for a few things. So
okay.
Yeah.
So that was the real deal. Oh man, that was farm to table right there.
For sure. We literally had to be, and I loved outside.
Yeah,
I loved the farm life. And then probably like 5 miles down the road, my mom had a sister with 18 kids, and they had a farm too. So it was a lot of farm life in the area. Maybe that's something. I think that's why so many babies are born. I think, but we lived on about 10 acres, and I think every acre my dad bought, he said, I think I'm gonna get 2 kids. Every acre, he said, I need to have some kids.
They're gonna work the farm, that's right.
To work the farm, seriously.
Now, you mentioned your dad. It's Father's Day weekend, and I've heard you say that your dad was your role model. I love that.
My dad would just, he, I know it sort of sounds cliche, but he was so instrumental in my life and decisions I've had to make, and he was just there just to remind me that I had greatness in me. And I was a very insecure girl, not sure of myself, feeling like sometimes I may feel like I'm not pretty enough with my hair. I was always but I was quiet. They said my twin brother took all my words. And my dad was just so encouraging, and he said, daughter, and that's what he called me most of the time because he couldn't remember my name. But it's something that he would say. He said, if you take in life with you just a few principles, you won't have to carry a suitcase full of rules. And the old principles that he lived by was faith, something bigger than him, someone bigger than him, attitude, which is mindset, and character, and that's your decisions you make. He said, daughter, those 3 things will be the pillars of your life. They will be your cornerstone, whether you got $1 million in your pocket or whether you got $1. And he said, you take those with you, wear them around your neck. And so I've been wearing around my neck for all these years.
Wow, what a legacy.
Yeah.
And he was a pastor.
Yep, PK kid.
Yeah, you and I.
That's right, hey.
Yeah, that's
PK
right.
Kid.
We got that. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, he was, definitely. And we grew up, I felt like we went to church almost too much. Sunday, Monday was something. And we get to school, and they where were y'all at Wednesday? Well, we had prayer meeting, or what about Tuesday, choir rehearsal? It was always something. So sometimes I said, Lord, does it take all this?
I feel your pain, Ruthie.
I know you feel my pain, but obviously we know that it took that in some. Yeah. So I'm thankful for my dad. I'm thankful for his obedience. And my dad, he said, I would not negotiate with my kid about going to church. So it wasn't getting up if you feel like you were sick. He said, you'll feel better once you get there.
That's right.
It was like, yeah, so yeah, he definitely, my dad was very stern and he was just a great leader by example. And he just he just said, you know what, you must be born again. You gotta have all these other things to have God in your life. And he said, you gotta have him for yourself. And he would say that over and over. You gotta have him as has to be something personal with you.
What a beautiful, again, a beautiful legacy to have that with your dad. And now, when you were growing up, when you were a teenager, I've heard you talk about a moment. Now, it seems like just a moment you were trying to jump over a fence, but it became a defining moment.
Oh, man, you know, the fence story, okay? Growing up in a family of 20, we had games. Jumping fences was a game. Jumping over a puddle of water. And I was a serious tomboy. And I had a really, really bad Jerry curl. Do you know what Jerry curls are?
Yeah.
So I was a serious tomboy, and I loved physical exercise. And so I used to jump fences and climb trees, and no problem. But as I proceeded to jump this fence, this one particular day, I got to the fence, and it seemed like it had gotten taller. And I'm like, what is going on? I know I've jumped this fence before. So I took steps back, and I said, I got this, relax. So I proceeded to go toward the fence again, and it seemed like it got taller, like nothing would move. I couldn't even jump this high, and fear was setting in. I'm like, what is going on? So as I'm looking at this fence, I could see them leaving me. But they were like, come on, don't worry about it. I'm like, no, I got it. So I pondered with that fence for about 15 minutes. And back in the South, the street light came on. And when it did, we had 5 minutes to be in the house. And that was the worst night. I'm like, I don't want to go in. I didn't jump this fence. And they said, no big deal. They said, just pick up where we left off tomorrow. I said, no, I got to jump this fence. It was something about jumping that fence. The next morning, it was nobody out there with me. I said, I got this. Go back to the basics. You got it. So I looked, and I said, you got to see yourself on the other side. See yourself celebrating. So I proceeded toward the fence. I leaped, jumped, cleared the fence. I didn't quite land on my feet, but I landed sideways, but I was on the ground celebrating. There was no cameras there. ESPN wasn't there. The Hall of Fame committee wasn't there. The Olympic committee wasn't there. Why was that moment important to me? And I asked myself, why was that moment important? 14 years old, didn't know what the Olympic was, didn't know anything about Hall of Fame. That's the moment I started becoming an Olympian. That's the moment I started becoming a Hall of Famer. That's the moment I started becoming who I eventually became because of the faith and because of the inner strength. And so I know I can do this. And you know, sometimes when you do things that don't make sense to people, it look crazy. Like I wasn't peer pressure to do it, but it was something about, that was a defining moment in my life. And getting over that fence. So I feel like it represents, what is your fence in life? What is that fear keeping you from going to the other side? When you start seeing yourself on the other side of fear, I know I can do this, because fear paralyzes us. It camouflages God's true greatness. It camouflages what God can really do in our lives. And so seeing on the other side and jumping that fence. So I know when I go out and I speak and I share, I say, what is your fence? And we all have different fence. What is keeping you from the other side? What has got you handcuffed? And so to me, that moment, and not really knowing at that moment, but just, I got this, I want to jump. So, and I just have this competitiveness in me anyway, and I just refuse to just walk away. And so it was that moment. So I always ask, what is your fence? Don't walk away so easily.
That's such a great word, Ruthie. In fact, I really think God's speaking to somebody right now and saying, what is that fence?
Yes, definitely. What is that fence? Yeah. And the fear is something that it paralyzes us, but it's like, not to even with fear, it's something on the other side. It's false experience and appearing real, but it's like there's something greater on the other side. And really trying to, when I talk to my players or, when I talk to young women that I mentor, I say, you know what, take a deep breath. It's okay to be afraid. It's okay to not know, because if you're never afraid, if you're never unsure, you don't need courage.
Right.
So that moment, that process, if I know fear exists, fear is here, but I know there's something on the other side, and that's to me the process of knowing that, you know what, I got this, I'm gonna rise above it. I rose above that fence, and that's why I got on the other side. But seeing yourself on the other side is important. Believing like I can because I am, which is that statement that this is my journey. I might not be where I want to go yet, but I am in this process. It's my mind. I'm going to greatness, whatever you want. So I always tell, what is your I am? And that's sort of part of that fence. What is your I am? And seeing it and give people permission to just, I'm not perfect, but give people permission to say, you know what, I still see it and I want to go for it and I'm going to pursue it.
Well, I love that. I love that, Ruthie. That's such a great word. Now, your number is retired in the University of Auburn. And yet when you were first getting ready to go there, as I understand it, they didn't think you were going to have much playing time at all.
Oh, man, that story, I'm going to try to sum it, not with the short version of it. But, yeah, growing up and we were pretty good in high school. We won state. My sister, Mayola, she was a year older. You only have one brother, you said?
Yeah, one brother. Yeah.
So my sister, Mayola, she was really good. It was like oranges and apples. Everybody recruited her. The top colleges recruited her. She went to her school visit. They flew on a private jet. And she deserved it because she was a superstar. But we won state, and I could make a couple of shots. I felt like I was pretty good. My senior year, we won state, and I'm waiting by the phone, no phone calls, nothing, no letters in the mail. I'm like, what is going on? Is somebody playing a joke on me? I'm like, I'm supposed to be getting ready to get on this private jet to go to Auburn, to go somewhere, even because you get 5 visits. And no one moved. And all of the coaches, when they came to my parents' home, said, we'll give both sisters a scholarship. And that enticed my parents because they wanted us to go to school together. But after my sister chose Auburn, nobody called. And so I remember talking to my dad. I said, Dad, something's going on. It's about time for, He said, you got to call them. He said, I'm like, but why are they supposed to call me? He said, don't give your power away. He said, you got to, he said, you can't sit back and wait. You got to do something about it. So I called Auburn. I said, when am I coming on a school visit? They were like, well, we don't have the budget to fly you, and we will have to put you on a bus, and it would take about 10 hours, and not sure if you want to do that. So I'm thinking I said, hold on for a second. My sister on a private jet, I'm on a bus. Something about that ain't right.
Yeah.
And I remember you know what, and nobody else had showed any interest. We had just won state, and my dad said, he said, daughter, he said, half of the battle in life is showing up. And he said, they said, get on the bus. If you can't, hey, if a door closed, get through a window. If a door closed, get through a window. But don't sit back and complain. He said, no, you got it. He said, I believe in you. And I'm thinking my dad is trying to just encourage me and lift me up, because that's what dads do.
Yeah, right.
Encourage their daughters, say, you great, trying to remind them of their greatness. But I was really, really sad and disappointed. But I said, okay, if I got to get on the bus, if that's how I got to get there. So I got on the bus and went to Auburn. I get there, and the coaches called me in the back room, and I said, you know what? I'm excited. I said to myself, because my sister had been there a year already.
Okay.
So I get to Auburn, and the coach said, man, he said, I don't even know how to say this. And I'm saying to myself, say what? He said, I don't think you're good enough to play here. And I'm thinking and I'm sitting there okay, I repositioned myself. He said, we didn't call you because we didn't think you could play here at this level school, Division I. And when you called us, we told you you had to ride a bus for 10 hours, and you still came. And he just said, this is a woman of faith, or she borderline, how many more ways can we tell her in something that she sucks? Right. And so he just, he just said, I tell you what, we promised your parents a scholarship. So he said, we'll give you about a week to think about it. And I'm sitting there just mad at the world. I'm thinking Lord, where are you? I've been a good girl. I've done my, I really was sitting there. All the good stuff I've done seemed like didn't pay off, and I'm saying to myself and just mad. Matter of fact, I didn't even respond because I was so upset. I remember getting home, crying, and my dad said, what did they say? And I said, they said they don't want me. And he said, calm down. He said, once again, don't give them your power. He said, it doesn't matter what people say as long as it's not true. He said, if you don't embrace this challenge, if you didn't get on that bus, you will be validating their perspective of you that you're not good enough. He said, but you're going to show them. He said, but you got to have the right mindset. You got to stay positive, and you got to keep a good attitude, and you just got to work hard. He said, you don't have to work harder than your sister. She has more natural talent. He said, but you got it in you. And I was like, wow. He said, if you get to Auburn, don't make one basket. He said, get an education. He said, but you're going to surprise them all. And I was like, wow. So sure enough, I go to Auburn, and I end up starting my latter part of my freshman year. And the coaches, they called me in the meeting. They said, they said, you can't be the same player we watched for 4 years, and we had no interest. And so really, I look at that as that God ordered your footsteps. But he's not when I got to Auburn, we won 3 conference championships, went to 2 Final Fours. In 4 years, 119 wins and 12 losses. He didn't take any shots from me. He didn't do any sprints. The Lord didn't do any push-ups. I had to do them, but he gives us the ability. Yeah. And a lot of times we wait, so we waiting on God and we waiting on him. But yes, but there's some things we got to do. Yeah. He's not going to do what we should do. So you got to walk in that leap of faith saying, okay, but my dad was there to guide me. He was there to just remind me, whispered in my ear, say, you know what, you got this. And I think that's what we need people in our lives to whisper in our ear, remind us, say, you know what, you got this, to edify us. And I feel like that's what my dad was doing. That's why, to me, I feel like I had the best dad in the world. And because he just at those places, at those scary places of, you know, do I go left, do I go right? And he didn't make the decision for me. He just said that, you know what, you got this. Trust God, but do what you're supposed to do. Get that, and you work harder than anybody else. And he said, you do that, the rest is gonna be gravy. So, and that's what I did. So, Dad, thank you.
Yeah. Again, the legacy and, boy, the step of faith and the perseverance that it took. And that tenacity and perseverance, it seemed to consistently show up in you, Ruthie. I mean, you dealt with adversity in your career. You had this major knee injury. The media said you couldn't come back from it, and yet you did. What was that like?
Oh, wow. You know, and this is late in my career. I'm about 33. And this is after the World Championship. I was on cloud nine. We had just beat the Russians, and we were down by 14 to 15 and a half. And supposedly I was the comeback kid. I helped us really win that one. I think it was Lisa Leslie, Dawn Staley, and myself hit like 17, 18 points in a row, just all three of us. And I hit 2 big threes down the stretch. And it was just, you know, I was on cloud nine and we had won. And I get back to the WNBA team and I was feeling tired and exhausted. I hadn't eaten. I was just like so excited because we had won the World Championship. And I got back and the first game back, I went to drive into the basket and I heard this pop. And that was devastated. I was like, oh man, I'm thinking I'm here, and then I fall so fast. It's like I go from like being on cloud nine, like life is great. Like my feet wasn't even touching the ground. I was so excited, you know. And then I had a major reality check. You know, I just, you know, knowing that my injury, because that was one of the worst injuries in basketball. Don't ever tell your ACL. It's like starting over, learning how to walk again. Heel toe. And I got mad at one moment. I was at God. I said, Lord, how did this happen to me right now when I'm really at the peak of my career, you know, and I was ready for the WNBA, and I just had to once again just trust him and just say, you know what, but I know not only who I am, but whose I am, and I just trust you. And I had to shift the atmosphere, shift my mindset, because you can get into that place of just feeling sorry for yourself. Oh, poor me, I just said, okay, I got to preach what I teach. And I had already been doing a little bit of speaking about attitude. My dad talking about attitude. On every door in the house, life is 10% what happens to you, 9% how you respond to it.
He would post it?
Yes, on every door.
Wow.
It was one would be green, one would be yellow, one would be red. And I always thought about like, why you got some of the same thing in every door? Now I know why. Because he said, I don't want you to just memorize this. I want it to get embedded in your mind, your heart, and your soul, because you're going to need it. He said, because it's a mean world out there, and your mindset, how you approach every situation, is so important, because your mindset and how you approach it shifts the whole atmosphere. And like seeing like a little kitty in the water, and I saw a picture of the little kitty in the water, and the kitty saw herself as a tiger, as a lion. And so you got your mindset and how you shift the atmosphere. So I had to do that with this injury, because I'm considered pretty old at 33 with this ACL injury. So I was going to my therapy, and I, you know, and I was thinking, okay, I could retire. I heard, you know, like a lot of people saying, maybe you should retire. And I'm thinking maybe, you know, I've already had a gold medal. I won a world championship, had a pretty good career. And then I read in the paper, someone said, I hope Ruthie Bolton don't come back because she's too old and rusty. I said, what? They don't know who they talking to, Mighty Ruthie. I was like, okay, I got that. Just motivated me. I was
Lit a
like,
fire, huh?
Yeah, so I started doing swimming classes after, like, without my therapist knowing it. And I was doing double days, and they didn't know it. And so I was determined to get back on the court. And I just like, I said, Lord, I know if it meant for me to get on the court, I'm going to work my butt off. And sure enough, I did. And I ended up making the All-Star team again. I made another Olympic team. And my doctor was Dr. Eric Hayden. He's a 5-time, he got 5 gold medals and 1 Olympics speed skating. And he just said that, you know what, out of 100, not just athletes now, 100 top athletes, 10% of them will come back from that injury, what I had in my knee. My knee was smashed. They had to shave it to try to make it bleed. It was very bad. And at that time in my career, and so that was God. Yep.
That's it. You know, it's amazing, the resilience, the grace God gave you in that moment, and the determination you had, and the resilience you showed. That's, wow, what a lesson in today's world, because, I mean, God's the God of the mountain and the valley.
Yes.
And all of us are going to have things we have to bounce back from. And so whatever people are trying to bounce back from, no matter how difficult, and even when the critics are saying you can't, you know, use that as fuel to motivate you.
I'm like, how dare you? I don't know if you've seen the movie, I think Men of Honor with Cuba Gooding Jr. was the Navy.
Oh, yeah.
It's like,
Yes.
you know, he wanted to achieve this. He wanted to do it. And they said, why are you fighting so hard? He said, because they said I couldn't have it. So it's like, how dare you? And when the coach was telling me that I couldn't play it all, you know, how dare you tell me that I can't, my dream, I see something. You're going to just go ahead of my dreams and take them from me? That's what my mindset. It's like, no, I want this. And so that's when I share my injury story, and I share my story by getting on the bus. As a matter of fact, my book, The Ride of a Lifetime, you know, about that was the most important ride I would ever take. That was a stepping stone to my journey. And that's why when I share, this is not, you know, of course you can read a book and you can hear someone tell a story, but these stories I have lived. I have lived that story. I know what it feels like on the other side of fear, on the other side of disappointment and sadness and feeling worthy and like, why me? I know. And really what helped me bounce back from that injury, it really, and I was getting ready to add this to it, my father passed away during my recovery. And when I thought I had hit rock bottom, and I'm worried about my injury and like, Lord, why me? And all of a sudden I get a phone call. It came from my twin brother. He said, you know, our dad's, you know, now you talking about, I was empty. My dad was my rock. Him and I had a special relationship. And he was just my rock, and I was very sad, I'm very empty. I said, Lord, I know you still God. I don't need to see the light at the end of the tunnel, but I just need for you to just direct me in the right, you know, because I know you exist. I know you, but I need to know. So that's when I really found my purpose through my knee injury and losing my father. Because if you don't have those things, what do you know, and I know my dad gave me enough of a foundation. So he showed me. I came up with my after-school program called Aim High. Because I was low. You know, you could say, you know, until you experience it, I was in a hole and had to get out this hole. And I said, God, I know you'll give me strength. I believe in you. I can hear your voice calling me, and I can see the light. And I just like, Lord, I know you got me on this stage for a reason, and knowing your why. And I want to add too, one of the reasons why I just kept fighting and believing that God had a purpose for my life. I said, Lord, I know you got something for me, because I was in a car accident and I senior in high school, and I was in the back. We headed to church, and we was in a hurry, and I was in the back, and my sister was in the front going to sing, and it was just three of us. I was a daddy's girl. Anytime my dad got ready to go, matter of fact, I remember jumping in the car. My mom said, no, you can't go. Your hair is not combed. My dad said, leave her alone. She's okay. So I got in the back, and I was like, I'm going to church with Dad. And we were like, literally, we could see the church, and my dad was getting ready to make a left turn. And I seen this 18-wheeler come. And I was like, Dad, go, the 18-wheeler's coming. He was just sitting there, and I'm just like, oh my God, the 18-wheeler's getting closer. And the next thing, what happened, the 18-wheeler tried to keep from hitting us. It hit the back of the car. The car spun around 4 or 5 times. I didn't notice, of course. I was thrown out of the car about 10 feet from the car. And they looked for me for about 15 minutes. They couldn't find me. And when they found me, my head was laying on the Bible in the ditch. A Bible had flown out of the car. Wow. And many people thought my dad had placed it there as they were praying, waiting on the helicopter to come. It just flew out. And we waited there for an hour. And they helicoptered me to the hospital. And I spent one night in the hospital. Nothing, no injury, no internal, anything. And God spared my life. And hey, that might sound like a coincidence to people, but I know God ordered my footsteps. He said, I got way too many mountains for you to climb, too many valleys for you to go through. I got way too much. It's like the world is at your feet. I got too much for you to do. And you're not going anywhere. It wasn't my time. He gave me another lease on life. So that's what my why is. When you know your why, when you lose your why, you lose your way. And knowing your why, that God gave me this extension on life. So I can't sit it up on the shelf and like, I got to do something with it. So I said, Lord, you saved my life for a reason. Yeah. You saved my life for a reason. So I just like, I know you're going to get me out of this hole. And sure enough, I started coming back from this injury, and I came back and played even better than I did before. So it's like all these different things that God keep just showing me. And that's why I share, it's like the leap of faith. So you take one step, it's just like, Lord, I know, and I trust in you. And just, Lord, I want to use me. Yeah. Use me however you want to use me. And that's my plea. It's like, Lord, use me in every situation.
Oh, that's so powerful. You know, when you lose your why, you lose your way.
Yes.
So recover that sense of why, that sense of purpose.
That sense of purpose.
that you
It's
have.
that sense of purpose, knowing like, okay, God got a plan for my
Yeah.
life. And even then, I knew that there was something happening. I was this country little girl, didn't like speaking in front of a lot of people, and even in college. But I started after my injury on crutches going to speak. I had this burning desire in me to just move. They were like, Ruthie, you're traveling too much. I said, I gotta go, I gotta. It was weird. It was like I was going and speaking in front of thousands. They were like, you, even my own family was like, you don't even like to say an Easter speech. My name is Ruthie, Happy Easter. And now you're going to, seriously, it was like God made this transformation in my life. He gave me this boldness, be bold, be mighty, be you.
I love that.
He created this boldness in me, and he wants us to be confident, and he wants us to be bold. And in Philippians 1:6, he said, be confident that I who start a good work will finish it.
Yeah.
And that's what my prayer, the Lord showed me. I said, I'm on this battlefield, and I'm trusting you. I know my dad, what he said when he leave here, he might not leave us with a lot of money, stocks and bonds, money to fight over. He said, I want to leave you with principles and sound doctrine. He said, so that you can continue the kingdom of God. And so he did that, and I said, Lord, I trust you.
Yeah.
And he just started just opening up doors and just creating this platform and this stage to be able to just, basketball was just sort of a setup.
Yeah.
He said, I'm going to make it look like you can play basketball a little bit because I got some amazing things for you to do and a lot of places to go.
Yeah, and God's continuing to do that, multiply your influence out
Oh, it's a
in
beautiful
amazing
thing.
ways.
I don't think, this is not a Bible verse, but it said, to the world you might be one person, but to one person you just might be the world. And seriously, like I live on it. To the world you could be just one person, but to one person you are somebody world you never know. It could be standing in line at Walmart. It could be you never know when you can impact somebody's life. You never know when you can show people, what Jesus looked like. It could be at a basketball game. It could be signing a girl's signature. Because if I do signatures, I always give them a message. Keep smiling. You're beautiful. Hang in there. Keep flexing your muscles.
Yeah.
And so it's so important because this journey isn't about me anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's bigger than me. Yeah.
Well, Ruthie, you mentioned that last phrase on your sweatshirt, the be you part. I've heard you talk about how important it is to be true to yourself.
Yes.
Now, why do you think that matters so much?
It's so important because it's so, I think about, this part of knowing your why, because I've had, even in this part of right after college, I wanted to play for the national team and I didn't get invited. So I'm like, okay, here we go again. I got to prove myself again. It's like, oh man, it's like every pastor, Lord, what is all of this? I'm like, haven't I proven myself enough? And so my dad said, hey, listen, he said, and this is before he had passed, he said, you'll never know if you don't go. You got on that bus. So if you want to go to the trials. And it was just so, we made it to the final game, March Madness. I could at least been given the benefit of the doubt. I didn't get a letter or anything. I'm like, man, I must have a really bad Jerry curl. It's like, so it's like, so I'm like, man. So my dad said, if you want to do it, go. He said, but I think if you don't, you always wonder, what if? And you'll live a life of regrets. And then to me, he said, you just got to go. So what? You get there and you got on that bus. He said, well, you're going to be okay. So sure enough, I paid my own way to go to a trial that I should have. People tell me, oh, don't go. Don't waste your money because they know who they want. They got 50 girls they invite. They spend 4 or 5 months finding the top 50 girls in the country. And out of those 50, they're going to choose 2 teams, about 24. And then they got another 125 pay their own way to go. So now you got 175 girls. 50 of their VIPs and 125. I was part of that 125. I paid my own way to go. Got my little dime, went there 3 days, 9 sessions. And after we got done, they gave this big speech, said, thank you all for coming, but we only got 24 spots, but stay encouraged. If you made the team, your name would be highlighted outside on the door. But if you didn't make it, don't get discouraged, come back. We only have 24 spots. And I'm sitting there stretching, and I go outside, and I'm just moseying on outside. And I go outside, and I look on the door, I'm gonna take one of these. Look, I take one of these, and I look, I'm like, hold up. Highlighted yellow, Ruthie Bolton, Alice Ruth Bolton. I'm like, no way. I was like, no, somebody playing a joke on me. I made the team. I was like, wow. It really clicked then. I said, Dad, thank you. Thank you. I said, Lord, thank you. That faith, attitude, and work. That formula finally started like, it making sense now. Yeah. I could have easily have stayed home.
Yeah, right.
But I went risking failure, risking falling, and my dad whispered out here and said, go, go, go. He said, you'll never know. So all the different things about being the you is like being the best version of you. It doesn't matter. You don't have to be like anybody else. Risk, you got to be able to risk. And you got to be able to have, like, knowing that at the end of the day, it's like in Romans, one of my favorite, in Romans 8 chapter, said, nothing should separate me from God's love. It's like, okay, I go there, so I don't make it. God, you still love me. You still value me.
Right, yeah.
You still value me, so that doesn't, but I want to play basketball too, though, you know. And I go there, and I made the team, and I was the only player on my team that did get invited, and the following year, I was the player of the year. So that's what it means to be the best version of you, is that the best version God wants you to be. Because listen, I can change my hair. You can change your hair a different color. You change, you know, you can even, we put on eyelashes. We do different things. But our fingerprints stay the same.
Right. Yeah.
We are who we are. How do we become the best version that God wants us to be? By trusting Him and not worry about being perfect. God will meet you where you are. If you wait, so I'm gonna wait to serve you. When everything is perfect, I'm good to go. You're gonna be walking down the street, kicking the ball, or counting marbles on the tree.
You're gonna be waiting a long time, huh?
He said, I will meet you where you are. And what other people throw away, God said, I can use you. I can use you. And so being the best version of you is like, don't worry about being this perfect. It's about being, so God said, I made you. There's nobody in the world have your set of fingerprints. I uniquely made you the way I wanted you to be, but I want you to be stretched. I want to broaden your territory, and that's what every day. I said, Lord, how can you make me better? I said, I know you can't do too much about my hair, but how can you make me better for other people? It's about your gifts, all of our gifts. Look at how unique this is. Our gifts, you're a pastor, I play basketball. We got people do different things. Our gifts will put us before great men, before great women. And our gifts is not for us. It is to serve others.
Yeah.
All your gifts, you can, I don't care how many years, you can be a surgeon. What, they go to school 10 years? That gift is not for them. It is to serve others. It is to help other, it's to work at a hospital and help. So all our gifts is to edify others, and that's what's so beautiful. God said, you thought you were doing it for you. You weren't doing it for you. Even playing basketball, that's a gift, but that's not my purpose. God said, I'm gonna let you play basketball because I got something bigger for you to do. And I'm actually an assistant coach for the Nigerian Olympic team. And that's
is that right?
That's an assignment from God.
Yeah.
And I've actually turned down a couple other positions with other things, but this is an assignment from God. The coach called me, and I got to share this. The coach called me, and he said, it's a lot of other positions that I didn't get because I don't have enough experience. I'm like, I played basketball 25, 30 years. I don't have that a lot of experience coaching. I did William Jessup, but I don't have all the X and O's experience, even though I played in 2 Olympics, 2 World Championships. But anyway, this coach called me, and I was praying. I said, Lord, I went to that area where I had an accident 37 years ago. And during the pandemic, and, we speaking a lot, because I was speaking in a lot of my country, things were just like, so Lord, what do you, I want, how can you use me in this time? What I want, and I'm not going to let the devil think I'm defeated because of this pandemic. I'm going to rise above this pandemic. Yeah. So I had to sort of go back to the base. I went to that spot, and I said, Lord, you spared my life. I want you to still use me. And that's when I was reading the verse in Philippians. He said, I started a great work with you, and I'm going to finish it, but you got to trust me. I said, Lord, I trust you. Literally, a couple of days later, this coach called me, and he said, my name is Otis Hughley. And, I've coached in the NBA, 3 different teams. I've done player development. Daniel gave me a number. I hope it's okay. He said, I'm coaching the Nigerian Olympic team, and he said, I know, you haven't really coached a long time. You might not have the X and O's experience. He said, but what you do have, it will be like a needle in a haystack. He said, I love your message. I love your love for God. He said, I'm handpicking my staff. I don't care about just the basketball. This is bigger than us. Yeah. You think the Olympics, this is bigger than us. He said, I want you to plant seeds in these girls' lives and change their life forever. He said, so I want you on my team. I've heard about your faith and who you are. And he said, you're going to be huge for my girls. He said, you can think about it, pray about it. He said, but I want you on my team. And I reached out to him the same day. I said, some things, hey, listen, God answered my prayer. My dad would say sometimes, don't waste God's time saying, do I put on a red pair of shoes or blue? So put on a pair of shoes,
That's right.
Just go. So I said, Lord, you gave me, you assignment someone to value me for, okay, I don't have the X and O's experience, but he said, Ruthie, you and your heart and your love for God, these girls, you're gonna, he said, I'm just so excited. So I said, I want it. This is an assignment from God. This is an assignment. It's not just a job. It's an assignment. And I'm beyond thrilled that I can use my basketball talent, but more importantly, use just what God has given me, my struggles and my challenges. I'm like, those things that I've gone through, I can't just talk about the good things, the tough things I've gone through.
Sure.
And but God still made a way for me. He still saw fit. And I'm thankful. I'm honored. I said, Lord, hey, every day I get up and I find this small miracle. It's a miracle. Lord, I got a heartbeat. I'm thankful you can use me today. And so working with these young ladies has just been a blessing. So I'm just thankful.
Oh, what a great opportunity. I mean, God has positioned you there to have a huge influence. And you know, that brings me really to something else. I think you've had the fourth most three-pointers in WNBA history. But I've heard you say that the greatest three-pointer that a person can make is to help somebody else be successful.
Yes.
I mean,
do you play basketball?
Well, I like to watch. I'm not very good.
Okay, yeah. A three-point play feels amazing.
Yeah.
You score and you get an and one, you get to go to the free throw line, and so that feels great. But what feels great is being able to help someone, you know, lift someone up, and to help someone smile, to give someone permission. I grant you permission to rewrite your story. I grant you permission to rise above. I grant you permission to be bold, be mighty, be the best version of you. And just say, and I can back up with my life. This is not a story I read. This is not my life. I've gone through it myself. And I know the formula. I know what will work. The peace I give is not as the world give it. And just really trying to, in their life, say, hey, you know what? And I love it. And to me, I'm in this battlefield. I'm hands-on. I don't want no executive position behind. I want to be hands-on. I want to be knee-deep into these girls' lives and being out there. And, you know, I was at I just have to share this story. It's about edifying people, about being accessible. I was at a restaurant with a friend of mine. Her and I was sitting there talking about this program we do for girls called A Girl in Her Crown. You know, a crown for a girl is her confidence and feeling good about herself and finding ways we can edify these young ladies. I have a 12-year-old, you know, I got to be her role model. I want her to look in the mirror and like who she sees. We want to talk about healthy relationships. So we were having a conversation, and anyway, after we got done eating, and our bill was maybe like $65, and I said, I got it. You always pitching it. No, let me get it this time. So the waiter said, you know what, y'all can fuss over 75 cents because it was 65, 75. He said, the lady sitting by you all paid for your meal. We were like, what? She said, we inspired her by our conversation, what we said about helping these girls. And we was like, that was just so, to me, that was a reminder how our conversation need to be. What we need to do is about uplifting other people. And God said, he said, deny self. It's like, it's about how can I use my talent to elevate someone else? You know, to really be there and be, because sometimes you may be the only Bible somebody read. You know, my platform and me and I've got countless of letters and countless of like, you know what, thank you so much for being inspirational. Thank you for, you know, by you sharing your story, you gave me confidence to go the next mile. You gave me confidence and you encouraged me, you lifted me up. And to me, that is the biggest compliment. That is like, wow, Lord, thank you. To be able to edify and to help people, because that's what it's about. I'm a vessel. You know, and you look at me, you may think because I'm an Olympian, Hall of Famer, that basketball was my purpose. No, it's a gift. Fruits of my labor, but God's purpose, you know, is precedes basketball.
Ruthie, you model a servant's heart. Here at Cathedral, we say a servant's heart is someone who gets excited about making somebody else successful.
I do.
And you live that. You lean into that.
I do. And my daughter says, Mommy, she said, Mommy, I'm so proud of you. She said, you know how you always say to the world, you might be one person, to one person, you might be the world. She said, you know, you're my world. She said, but I just love how you help other people and love people. She said, I want to be just like, you know, seriously, I want to be, you know, and to me, I want my children, I want them to understand what it means to give.
Yeah.
That's the way you show love. And so God so loved the world. What did he do? He gave.
That's right.
For God so loved, he gave. So it's about, I want to be givers. I want to be accessible in my, you know, and it's like, a lot of times if I go to events and they, you know, being a professional athlete, I'm like, you know what, no, outside, I don't care about the clock. Like, I'm not the ordinary athlete. I'm not just, I always find an angel in the audience. I was speaking at a church one time, this little 8, you know, everybody coming up, oh, your message was great. You were awesome, you know, sign this. This little girl came up. She said, I don't really want a signature, but I want you to know you changed my life. She said, you changed, and I'm like, what? And she just walked away, and I'm like, I'm looking for this little girl. I'm like, do y'all see the little girl? Like, it was like she was an angel. She said, you changed my life. She barely, baby, and she said I changed her life. And to me, I was like, Lord, thank you. I'm thankful that God has chosen me. Many are called, but few are chosen. I'm thankful that He's chosen me. And it doesn't matter where I gotta go. It doesn't matter the wilderness. I know that my purpose, it is to honor and serve others, and I'm thankful for that. And that to me, that's the biggest, knowing that I inspire someone and lifted someone up.
Yeah, I'd encourage all those who are watching right now, think about who God's put in your orbit, and how can you get behind their dreams and help them to, find and follow the dream that God has for their life. That's when life really gets exciting. Now, Ruthie, let me talk to you about something that's, I know it's very personal and a painful season. You're a survivor of domestic violence, and we see a lot of abuse in our society. What was the key to you surviving that and really finding healing in your own heart?
Wow, it's interesting because as a little girl, or as anybody, you have dreams and things you want to do, and you create this storyboard. I want to be a basketball player, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a lawyer, but no one sit there and say one day, I want to be an advocate for domestic. I'm gonna be a survivor of domestic violence. No one want to choose that path, and sometimes things chooses you. You go through, and so what has helped me, the faith, knowing my dad, about no matter what you go through, trust God, and that He would help you transition out of that. And it was tough because I was young. I didn't know a lot about relationships, and it was a scary place, but it was during the peak of my career. My home life and not being able to control that, and not being able to figure out why is it so confusing. On the basketball court, I could soar. I got my teammates edified me, and they were safe haven for me. And then being able to, I wrote in a lot of journals during that time, being able to get along with God and just write. And because I wasn't really sharing it, I felt embarrassed, I felt ashamed, like, you got married, why is your husband, being physical with you? Why is your husband, beating you? You must, so I just sort of kept it to myself and wrote about it. But I still knew, I said, God, I know you're gonna help me get through this. And so I feel like I'm strong, I'm tough. And I think that's why I played so hard on the basketball court, because it was a place where I could, and my teammates edify me. I wasn't getting that at home, but there's a way you gotta turn your pain to power, which is the book that I finished writing about 3 years ago, Pain to Power, and knowing that between that pain to power, that you need a landing zone for your pain. And when people don't find purpose in their pain, and I know no one asks for circumstance, but when it happens, how do I get, this mountain, how do I get to the other side? The devil's come to kill, steal, and destroy. God come to get, he want to destroy everything, your confidence, who you are, make you feel so unworthy, and God want to give you an abundant life, and He want you to know that I love you. And so that's what I hung on to. I said, God, I know you love me, and I know that, and so turning my pain to power, finding purpose, and that peace of forgiveness, forgiving yourself, forgiving others. Like that forgiveness can be, unforgiveness is like, it's a pandemic within itself. If people feel like I don't have to forgive because of what I've gone through, and they feel obligated to not forgive, but you become prisoner of your own emotions. To learn how to forgive and be free, and just not just fly but soar. And so knowing where not only who I am, but whose I am, help me. Remember thinking about my father teaching, and knowing that God is always, he's bigger than this. And I know I'm in pain, and he said, he said, cast all your cares on me, for I care for you. And he said, be still, and don't just think about it. Be still and don't just wonder, but be still and know that I'm God. And so I said, Lord, you are God in the midst of all this. You don't change. And so just trust in Him. And it was still tough. I had to go through a lot of counseling and just like, man, but I know, and this happened years ago, and ESPN did a documentary on it 4 years ago, Mighty Ruthie, the truth behind the mighty, and I share a lot of things. It was very painful. It was very painful, and I didn't want to do it because I didn't want any attention on me. I'm like, I'm good. And the only reason ESPN really pursued me to do it, I was like, no, I'm good. I don't want to bring up old wounds. I'm fine. And when they say, you know what, you're going to change so many people's lives. You're going to impact the masses because people your status don't come out and share this. I know it's in the past, but you're going to change people's lives. And so I said, you know what, that's all you need to say. just calling God spared my life in that car. He created this pathway for me. And this is not for me to just, sit up and think I'm all this. And like he said, this is bigger than you. And that's what made me.
Oh, Ruthie, thanks for having that courage. I found that God, if we bring our pain to him, God never wastes the pain.
Yes.
And he takes that pain and makes it productive.
Yes, exactly.
And for you to be willing to talk about it and share your story. Thank you for having that kind of courage. Yeah. As we kind of wrap things up, if you had one word of advice to people who have a dream and are getting ready to follow that dream, what word of encouragement or advice would you have for them?
If you want to dream,
what's the key to reaching your dreams?
Knowing that you have dreams. I know that reminding, say, you know what, I have dreams. I have the right to dream. And that's what I try to do with young people. Say, a lot of them think, I've been through, no, I don't have a right to dream. No, you have a right to dream. To not just dream, but to dream big. And it's interesting, I just finished a song that said, dream big. If you want it, you can do it. Dream big. Pour your heart into it. If it's worth dreaming about, you might as well. If it's worth dreaming about, you might as well dream big. Reminding the children to dream big and say, yeah, you have a right to dream big. You fall on your face, get back up. Fall down again, get back up, because God is giving you the space to dream and to dream big.
Ruthie, what an absolute honor, an inspiration. It has been just to be with you today.
Hang out with you. Where you been hiding? I'm coming back. Hey, I hope this is giving me the key to your little town.
Absolutely. Okay. I hope so, Ruthie. You bring your brother with you. Bring all 20 siblings with you.
You better watch what you say to my family. Hey, don't have false invitations, because we'll show up. Somebody says, oh, come to our house anytime. We'll show up at your house before you get there.
That's good.
We love invitations.
Oh, Ruthie, thank you. Keep up the great work.
Thank you.
Blessings, Ruthie.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.